He slammed the glass down so hard, it shattered across the marble table. The entire ballroom went silent. Music stopped. Conversations froze. Hundreds of wealthy guests turned toward the tall man standing at the center of the room. Ethan Cole, billionaire tech founder, the youngest man on the continent to build a company worth billions, stared coldly at the woman in front of him. Tears ran down her cheeks. "Ethan, I love you," she whispered again. He laughed. Not a kind laugh, a sharp, humiliating laugh that echoed through the hall. "Love," Ethan repeated. "You think I'm stupid." The woman's lips trembled. "You think I don't know why you're here," he continued, voice rising. "Everyone in this room wants something from me: money, power, status." He leaned closer. "And you think saying you love me is the fastest way to get it?" The crowd murmured. The woman shook her head desperately. "No, that's not true." Ethan straightened his suit jacket. "Love is just a game poor people play when they have nothing else," he said loudly. The woman covered her face and ran out of the ballroom. Some guests looked uncomfortable, others whispered. But Ethan simply picked up another drink. At the back of the room, one person didn't look away. A woman with deep brown skin, calm eyes, and tightly braided hair stood quietly near the exit. She had been working the event as part of the catering staff. Her name was Amara. And the look on her face wasn't fear. It was disappointment. She stepped forward. "Excuse me." Ethan barely glanced at her. Employees shouldn't interrupt guests. Amara didn't move. "You embarrassed that woman for no reason." The room gasped. No one spoke to Ethan Cole like that. Ethan slowly turned toward her. "And who are you?" "Someone who still believes people deserve respect," Amara said calmly. A few guests whispered nervously. Ethan studied her for a moment. Then he smirked. "Let me guess," he said. "You're about to give me a lecture about love too." Amara crossed her arms. "No," she said quietly. "I'm just wondering what happened to you that made your heart so empty." The room went silent again. Ethan's eyes narrowed. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Then it disappeared. "You're fired," he said coldly. Amara didn't react. Instead, she simply said, "One day, Mr. Cole, someone will show you what love actually looks like." Then she walked away. Ethan watched her leave. For some reason he couldn't explain, her words stayed in his mind longer than he liked. And he hated it. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this take time to create, and your support helps bring more powerful stories to life. But Ethan Cole had no idea that the woman who had just challenged him was about to change his entire world. 3 days later, Ethan stood inside a sleek glass conference room on the top floor of his company headquarters. His assistant Marcus clicked through slides on a large screen. "This area is perfect for the new development project," Marcus explained. "Luxury apartments, shopping centers, and a private park." Ethan nodded. "Buy the land." Marcus hesitated. "There's one small complication." Ethan looked up. "What?" Marcus cleared his throat. "A community center sits right in the middle of the property." Ethan sighed. "So?" "Well, the neighborhood residents use it for after-school programs, classes, events." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "How much would it cost to relocate them?" "We offered compensation," Marcus said, "but the woman running the center refused." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Refused?" Marcus nodded. "She insists the center isn't for sale." Ethan smirked. "Everything is for sale." Marcus clicked to the next slide. A photo appeared on the screen. Ethan froze. It was her. Amara. the same woman who had challenged him at the gala. Marcus continued speaking. Her name is Amara Johnson. She runs educational programs for kids in the neighborhood. Ethan leaned forward slowly. Schedule a visit, he said. Marcus blinked. You want to meet her? Ethan's expression hardened. I want to understand why someone thinks they can tell me no. The next afternoon, a black luxury car rolled into the modest neighborhood. Children were playing soccer in the street. A small brick building stood nearby with a colorful sign painted across the wall. Hope Community Center. Ethan stepped out of the car. He immediately noticed the laughter of children. It felt strange. His world was filled with boardrooms, contracts, and cold conversations. But here, everything felt alive. Inside the building, children sat at desks working on homework. At the front of the room stood Amara. She was explaining a math problem while a group of kids listened carefully. Okay, she said with a smile. Who wants to try solving it? A small boy raised his hand. Amara nodded encouragingly. Go ahead, Daniel. As the boy walked to the board, the door opened. Everyone turned. Amara saw Ethan. Her expression didn't change. Well, she said calmly, looks like the billionaire found our little center. Ethan stepped inside. We need to talk. Amara turned to the kids. Take a 10-minute break. The children ran outside. Silence filled the room. Ethan looked around. Nice place. Thank you. It won't be here much longer. Amara folded her arms. You mean your construction project? Ethan nodded. I'm offering generous compensation, enough to build something bigger somewhere else. Amara shook her head. The answer is still no. Ethan sighed. You're being unreasonable. No, she replied. I'm protecting something important. Ethan's voice grew colder. You're standing in the way of a billion-dollar project. Amara stepped closer. And you're standing in the way of hundreds of kids who need this place. Ethan stared at her. Then he said something he didn't expect. Why do you care so much? Amara's voice softened. Because someone once cared about me. Ethan scoffed. Sentimental nonsense. Amara looked straight into his eyes. Have you ever loved anyone, Mr. Cole? Ethan's jaw tightened. That's none of your business. She nodded slowly. I didn't think so. Something about that answer irritated him more than any insult. Everything has a price, he said. Amara shook her head. Not everything. They stared at each other in silence. Then Ethan said quietly, Prove it. Amara frowned. What do you mean? Ethan took a step forward. Spend 1 week showing me that love is real. She looked confused. A week? Yes, Ethan said. 1 week in this community. Let me see the world you believe in. And if you still don't believe, she asked. Ethan's voice was calm. Then the center gets demolished. Amara studied his face. Then she said something that surprised him. Deal. Neither of them realized that the next 7 days would change everything. Ethan did not expect the neighborhood to look the way it did the next morning. At exactly 8 o'clock, he stepped out of the black car Marcus had reluctantly allowed him to use only for transportation. Marcus looked uneasy. Sir, are you sure you want to do this, living here for a week? Ethan adjusted his watch. Relax, it's just 7 days. Marcus lowered his voice. You're the CEO of a billion-dollar company. And I'll still be the CEO in 7 days, Ethan replied. Marcus sighed. All right, I'll check in daily. The car drove away, leaving Ethan standing on the sidewalk in front of the community center. Children were already arriving. Some carried worn backpacks, Some wore shoes that had clearly seen better days. But they were laughing, running, playing. Ethan frowned. Amara stepped out of the building, holding a box of notebooks. "You're late," she said. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "It's 8. We start at 7:30. She handed him the box. "Take these inside." Ethan stared at the box. "You want me to carry supplies?" "Yes," she said casually, "unless billionaires are allergic to cardboard." One of the kids giggled. Ethan sighed and took the box. Inside the building, he placed it on a desk. Children watched him curiously. One small girl whispered loudly, "Is he famous?" Another boy shrugged, "He looks rich." Ethan muttered under his breath, "Fantastic." Amara clapped her hands. "Okay, everyone settle down." The room slowly quieted. She gestured toward Ethan. "This is Ethan. He's helping us this week." A boy raised his hand. "Is he a teacher?" Amara smiled slightly. "Something like that." The kids waved. "Hi, Ethan." Ethan awkwardly nodded. The morning passed slowly. Ethan watched as Amara helped the children with reading, math, and homework. She moved from desk to desk, patient and encouraging. "Great job, Maya." "Try that sentence again, Daniel." "Don't give up, you're close." Ethan noticed something strange. Every child trusted her. They listened to her. They smiled around her. At one point, a boy approached Ethan holding a math worksheet. "Can you help me?" Ethan looked at the paper. "I haven't done math like this in years." The boy frowned. "Then how did you become a billionaire?" Ethan paused. "Different kind of math." The boy shrugged and ran back to Amara. Ethan watched her kneel beside the child, calmly explaining the problem. She didn't rush. She didn't seem tired. She simply cared. Later that afternoon, Ethan sat outside on the steps while the children played. Amara joined him. "So," she said, "how's the experiment going?" Ethan shrugged. "Your kids seem happy." "They're not my kids," she replied. "But you treat them like they are." Amara looked at the playground. "Someone once did the same for me." Ethan leaned back. "You keep saying that." She glanced at him. "Does it bother you?" "No," he said quickly. But it did. More than he wanted to admit. Later that evening, Ethan walked through the neighborhood. He saw something he rarely saw in his world. People helping each other. A woman shared groceries with her neighbor. 2 men fixed a broken fence together. A group of teenagers helped an elderly man carry bags inside his house. No one asked for payment. No contracts. Just kindness. Ethan couldn't understand it. When he returned to the community center, Amara was locking the door. "You're still here," he said. "I'm always the last one to leave." "Why?" She shrugged. "Someone has to care." Ethan studied her. "You really believe all this love and kindness changes anything?" Amara looked directly at him. "Yes." He scoffed. "You're wasting your life." Amara didn't get angry. Instead, she asked quietly, "Did someone hurt you that badly?" Ethan froze. "That's not your concern." She nodded. "All right." But the silence between them felt heavier now. On the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. A small boy named Daniel tripped while running outside. He fell hard on the pavement and started crying. Ethan happened to be nearby. He immediately rushed over and lifted the boy. "You're okay," Ethan said. Daniel sniffed. "My knee hurts." Ethan carried him inside and cleaned the scrape with antiseptic. Amara watched quietly from the doorway. After the bandage was placed, Daniel smiled. "Thanks, Ethan." Ethan nodded. When the boy left, Amara spoke. "You didn't hesitate. It was just instinct." Amara smiled softly. "Maybe your heart isn't as closed as you think." Ethan rolled his eyes. "Don't start." But something had shifted. That evening Marcus called. "How's the field trip going?" Marcus joked. Ethan looked out the window at the neighborhood. "It's interesting." Marcus chuckled. "Sir, you sound different." "I'm not." But Ethan wasn't entirely sure. The next day, he saw something that shook him. A little girl approached Amara with a handmade card. "Happy birthday," she said. Amara looked surprised. "It's not my birthday." The girl grinned. "I know, but you always celebrate our birthdays, so we wanted to celebrate you." Several kids gathered around with small gifts. Cookies, drawings, paper flowers. Amara covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan watched the moment quietly. The children hugged her, laughing, smiling. No money, no luxury, just love. Later that evening, Ethan sat alone outside. For the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Amara joined him again. "You're quiet tonight." Ethan exhaled slowly. "They really care about you." She nodded. "And I care about them." He hesitated. "How do you do it?" "Do what?" "Give so much without expecting anything back." Amara looked up at the sky. "Love isn't a transaction, Ethan." He didn't respond. Because deep down, something inside him was beginning to crack. On the fifth morning, Ethan woke earlier than usual. For a moment he forgot where he was. The small guest room inside the community center was quiet. No marble floors, no skyline view, no assistants waiting outside the door. Just sunlight coming through a simple window. He sat up slowly. Something about the quiet felt different. Then he heard laughter outside. Children. He walked to the window. Several kids were already playing soccer in the dusty field beside the building. One of them noticed him. "Hey, the billionaire is awake." The others laughed. Ethan shook his head and walked outside. Daniel ran up to him. "Come play." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You want a billionaire on your team?" Daniel shrugged. "You helped fix my knee, that makes you cool." Ethan smirked. "Fine." The game started. For the next 20 minutes, Ethan ran across the field with a group of kids who didn't care about his wealth, his company, or his reputation. They only cared if he could score a goal. At one point, Ethan tripped and fell. The kids burst out laughing. Even Ethan laughed. From the steps of the community center, Amara watched quietly. When the game ended, Ethan sat down beside her, breathing heavily. "You look surprised," she said. "I haven't run like that in years." Amara smiled. "Feels good, doesn't it?" Ethan looked at the children still playing. "They're happy. They have each other," she said. He leaned back. "Is that really enough?" Amara thought for a moment. Sometimes love fills spaces money never can. Ethan didn't respond. Later that afternoon, something unusual happened. A black car pulled up outside the center. Marcus stepped out. He looked around the neighborhood, clearly uncomfortable. Ethan walked over. "You look like you just saw a ghost." Marcus lowered his voice. "Sir, the board wants an update." Ethan sighed. "Tell them the project is delayed." Marcus blinked. "Delayed? For 1 week." Marcus glanced at the children. "This place is affecting you." Ethan gave him a sharp look. No, it's not. Marcus hesitated. Sir, you laughed earlier. Ethan frowned. So? I've worked with you for 5 years, Marcus said quietly. I've never seen you laugh. Ethan didn't know what to say. Marcus handed him a folder. Anyway, I brought the documents. If the center closes, construction begins immediately. Ethan took the folder but didn't open it. Marcus studied him. Just remember what your goal was when you came here. Ethan nodded slowly. I remember. Marcus left. That evening, Ethan noticed something strange. Amara looked pale. She moved slower than usual while helping the kids finish their homework. At one point, she held the edge of a table as if steadying herself. Ethan noticed immediately. Are you okay? Amara forced a smile. I'm fine. But Ethan wasn't convinced. Later that night, after the children went home, Ethan stepped outside to get some air. The street was quiet. That's when he heard voices coming from behind the building. He recognized one of them instantly. Amara. The treatments aren't working, she was saying softly. Ethan froze. Another voice replied through a phone speaker. You need to rest, the voice insisted. I don't have time to rest, Amara said. The kids need the center. Ethan's heart skipped. What about telling them? The voice asked. Amara was silent for a moment. No. Amara. I don't want pity, she said quietly. I just want to finish what I started. Ethan felt a strange chill run through him. What did the doctor say? The voice asked. Amara's reply was almost a whisper. 6 months, maybe less. Ethan's breath caught. Cancer. The word echoed in his mind, even though she never said it out loud. The call ended. Amara leaned against the wall for a moment, exhausted. Then she took a deep breath and walked back inside. Ethan remained frozen in the shadows. Everything inside him felt like it had been flipped upside down. 6 months. She had 6 months to live. And she had spent her time fighting to protect a community center for children who weren't even her own. The next morning, Ethan watched her more closely. She was still smiling, still helping the kids, still laughing with them, as if nothing was wrong. It confused him. It angered him. Finally, he confronted her. They stood alone inside the empty classroom. Why didn't you tell me? He demanded. Amara looked confused. Tell you what? Ethan's voice rose. I heard your phone call. Amara went silent. For the first time since he met her, she looked vulnerable. You weren't supposed to hear that. Ethan shook his head in disbelief. You're dying. She didn't respond. And instead of spending your time resting or traveling or doing something for yourself, you're here fighting me over a building. Amara sat down slowly. It's not just a building. Ethan paced the room. You have 6 months. And these kids have their whole lives, she replied softly. Ethan stopped walking. Why? He asked. Why would you sacrifice your last months for them? Amara looked at him with calm eyes. Because someone once sacrificed everything for me. Ethan sat down across from her. What do you mean? Amara spoke slowly. When I was 10 years old, I was homeless. Ethan listened carefully. A teacher found me sleeping behind a school building, she continued. Instead of ignoring me, she brought me inside. Her voice softened. She gave me food, books, a place to learn. Ethan remained silent. She saved my life, Amara said. What happened to her? Ethan asked. Amara smiled sadly. She passed away a few years later. Ethan felt a heavy feeling in his chest. So this center is my way of continuing what she started, Amara finished. Ethan looked down at the folder Marcus had given him. The documents that would destroy this place. For the first time in years, his hands trembled. If the center disappears, Amara said quietly, so does everything she built through me. Silence filled the room. Then Ethan asked something that surprised even himself. Why didn't you tell the kids you're sick? Amara smiled gently. Because love isn't about how long you live. She looked toward the playground outside the window. It's about what you leave behind. Ethan felt something break inside him. For years he had believed love was fake. Weak. Manipulative. But this woman who was dying, had spent her life giving love away without expecting anything in return. He stood up slowly. I need some air. He walked outside and stood alone under the fading evening sky. Everything he believed suddenly felt wrong. The next morning, Marcus arrived again. Time up, Marcus said. The board wants the final decision today. Ethan looked at the community center. Children were arriving. Laughing. Running inside. Marcus opened the folder. All you need to do is sign. Ethan stared at the pen. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he closed the folder. Marcus blinked. Sorry. Ethan looked at the building again. And for the first time in his life, Ethan Cole understood something he had spent years rejecting. Love was real. And the woman who showed it to him was running out of time. Marcus stood beside the car, holding the folder out again. Sir, he said carefully, the board meeting starts in 20 minutes. They expect your signature before construction begins. Ethan didn't answer immediately. Children were walking into the community center. Daniel waved when he saw him. Hey, Ethan. Ethan forced a small smile and waved back. Marcus noticed the interaction and sighed. This place is clouding your judgment. Ethan finally looked at him. Is it? Marcus frowned. Yes, this project will generate billions. Investors are waiting. Ethan glanced at the folder again. Marcus, how long have you worked for me? 5 years. And in those 5 years, Ethan asked quietly, have you ever seen me hesitate about a business decision? Marcus shook his head. Never. Ethan nodded slowly. That's what I thought. Marcus relaxed slightly. Then we should proceed. But Ethan didn't take the folder. Instead, he walked toward the community center. Marcus called after him. Sorry. Ethan didn't stop. Inside the building, Amara was helping a group of children with a science project. When she saw Ethan, she immediately noticed something was different. You look serious, she said. Ethan looked around the room. Children laughing. Paper models scattered across the desks. Hope painted on every wall. Then he looked back at her. The board wants the final decision today. Amara nodded slowly. I figured. She didn't look angry. Or scared. Just calm. Whatever you decide, she said softly, thank you for spending the week here. Ethan frowned. That's it. Amara smiled gently. You came with an open mind. That's more than I expected. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. You're not even going to try to convince me. She shook her head. No. Why not? Because love isn't something you force someone to see, she replied. They have to discover it themselves. For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. Then Daniel ran over. Amara, look what we built. The boy held up a small bridge made of popsicle sticks. Amara clapped. That's amazing. Daniel looked at Ethan. Do you like it? Ethan examined the tiny bridge. It's strong, he said. Daniel grinned proudly. We built it together. The boy ran back to the other kids. Ethan looked at Amara again. "How do you stay so positive?" he asked. She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "You know you're dying," Ethan said quietly, "and yet you're still smiling." Amara was silent for a moment. Then she said something that Ethan would remember for the rest of his life. "Because every day I'm still here is a chance to love someone." The words hit him harder than he expected. At that moment Marcus walked into the room, clearly impatient. "Sir," he said firmly, "we have to go." He placed the folder on the desk. The pen rested on top. Everyone in the room watched. Amara didn't say a word. Ethan picked up the pen. For years he had believed in only one rule. Money first. Everything else second. He opened the folder. Marcus leaned closer, ready to collect the signed documents. The children watched curiously. Ethan looked down at the papers. Then he slowly tore them in half. Marcus gasped. "Sir." Ethan tore them again. And again. The ripped pieces fell onto the floor. The room went completely silent. Marcus stared in shock. "You just canceled a $1 billion project." Ethan looked at him calmly. "No." Marcus blinked. "What?" Ethan turned toward Amara. "I replaced it." Amara frowned. "What do you mean?" Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled out another document. He placed it on the desk. "This is the new plan." Marcus picked it up, confused. His eyes widened as he read. "Sir, this says." Ethan nodded. "Yes." Amara looked between them. "What's happening?" Ethan took a deep breath. "I'm funding the complete expansion of this community center." Amara froze. "The building will be renovated," Ethan continued. "New classrooms, a library, computer labs, scholarships for the kids." Marcus shook his head in disbelief. "That's over $20 million. Ethan shrugged. "Seems like a good investment." Amara's eyes filled with tears. "You don't have to do this." "I know," Ethan said quietly. "But I want to." She stared at him. "Why?" Ethan looked around the room. At the children. At the drawings on the walls. At the place she had built with love. Then he said the words he never thought he would say. "Because you were right." Amara whispered, "About what?" Ethan met her eyes. "Love." The children didn't fully understand what was happening, but they could feel the emotion in the room. Daniel raised his hand. "So the center stays." Ethan smiled. "Yes." The kids erupted into cheers. Some started jumping. Others hugged Amara. Marcus rubbed his forehead. "I'm going to have a very difficult conversation with the board." Ethan chuckled. "Tell them I finally made a decision based on something more valuable than money." Marcus sighed. "What's that?" Ethan looked at Amara. "Meaning?" Amara wiped a tear from her cheek. "You didn't have to change for me." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't change for you." She looked confused. "Then why?" Ethan smiled softly. "You didn't change me." He gestured toward the children, laughing behind her. "They did." Weeks passed. Construction crews arrived. But instead of destroying the center, they rebuilt it. Bigger, stronger, brighter. New classrooms were added. A playground. A computer lab. The community watched in amazement. And Ethan visited often. Not as a billionaire inspecting property, but as someone who cared. One evening he found Amara sitting outside, watching the sunset. He sat beside her. "You look tired," he said gently. She smiled. A little. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Ethan spoke. You shattered my world. Amara looked at him curiously. How? For years I believed love was weakness, he said. And now? Ethan watched the children playing in the distance. Now I realize it's the strongest thing that exists. Amara smiled softly. That realization alone makes everything worth it. Months later, the new building officially opened. A large sign stood at the entrance. Hope Learning Center. But beneath it was a smaller plaque. Amara Johnson Foundation. The children gathered outside cheering. Ethan stood quietly beside Amara. You did this, she said. Ethan shook his head. No. He looked at her. You did. Amara smiled. And in that moment, Ethan understood something that once seemed impossible. The man who didn't believe in love had finally found it. And it had changed everything. If this story moved you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stories like this remind us that even the hardest hearts can change when